hopefully it's going to take it out.
We understand.
It'll hopefully yes.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to get going in just a second.
That sounds great. And
Hey, Leah. Make sure everyone who comes in is Thank you. Good evening to everyone here and welcome to the lottery selection event for Central Oregon's very first ever Civic Assembly, the Deschutes County Civic Assembly on youth homelessness. And on behalf of all of our partners, the logos up here, and many, many more, we are absolutely thrilled to have all of you here joining us, all of the people who are watching on Healthy Democracy's live stream, which is coming in from over there. So we understand there will be people who are anxiously awaiting word on whether they're selected for this assembly who are here. And when I talk about the partnership, who are the partners in COCAP, which is the Central Oregon Civic Action Project, we have three core partners, and those are Democracy Next, which is a global expert and leading authority on civic assemblies, who are giving us kind of the playbook on how to put one of these on, best practices from around the globe. Then we have here locally the Laboratory for the American Conversation at OSU Cascades, who's providing a lot of deep understanding of how to approach dialogue around complex and divisive issues, and also helping us with some research and getting students involved in this process. And then our implementers and our regional partners who are experts in this field, have been around for decades, Healthy Democracy, and you'll be hearing from one of our colleagues there here in just a bit. But before we get into the civic lottery, I want to talk about, just for a moment, what actually is a civic assembly. This is a term that is not maybe well known. I didn't know it until fairly recently. But maybe first start with what it's not. A civic assembly is not a focus group. It is not a town hall. It's not a way to circumvent or go around government. It's not a way to replace elected officials. Quite to the contrary, it's very additive, and it's a way to strengthen the hand of elected officials and government officials by making them, providing a way to be closer to the community and really understand in depth what the community's feelings are around complex issues. In this case, we'll be looking at a very challenging and complex topic that is very close to members of our audience and people throughout the community and really around the country, and that is the challenge of youth homelessness. And our challenge statement, the topic that we have chosen for this after lengthy dialogue with members across the region, is how do we prioritize the resources the best to find community solutions for preventing and ending youth homelessness. You'll be hearing from some people here this evening who have a lot of experience and lived experience in that arena. Now back to what is a civic assembly. So we're going to define it. It is quite simply bringing together a randomly selected but representative sample of members of the community to learn in depth and then deliberate on solutions for a challenging topic. And then take those recommendations that they come up with after debate directly to members of the government. And we are very, very fortunate that we have here this evening representatives of the county and city governments here, amongst some of others who weren't able to make it this evening, but who have pledged via public votes to actually receive those recommendations from the assembly at the end of it and report back to the community on whether or not they're going to implement it. And that's a really singularly important point of this process that I'll emphasize again down the line. But going back to the definition one more time, randomly selected but representative of the community, that's a fine line to try to balance. And that's where my colleague Grace Taylor from Healthy Democracy will go into greater detail on how we tread that line and ensure that both of those things happen. On the learning in depth about the challenge, we're putting together an independent committee with no government official. Well, there will be some members of government who are experts in this arena of youth homelessness, but also service organizations, people with lived experience, people in school systems who've been dealing with this issue for years, who will be on an independent committee putting together all of the content that the assembly members will be learning about. That will be the first 2 days of what will be a 5-day assembly. The 30 members who were selected this evening will come together on the 14th and 15th of September to go in depth and learn from subject matter experts, from people with lived experience, from government officials about the complexities of the challenge, what's been tried, what's working, what's not, what regulatory barriers may exist. Then they'll break for a couple of weeks, able to reach back out to the committee and learn more about the problem. If they've got additional people they'd like to hear from, we'll listen to the assembly members. They'll really be empowered to take charge of the assembly process. They'll come back together on the 4th, 5th, and 6th of October to then go into the facilitated deliberation, breaking into small groups and committees to look at the issue from every angle and come up with what they think should be the priorities for putting resources to use in the community. And quite importantly there, the recommendations that they come up with must be a supermajority, 75% agreement on what the solutions should be. While we do have representative balance of the demographics of the community deeply ingrained in this, we don't want to have along those dividing lines people who are making decisions, making recommendations. And then they'll write up the recommendations that they've all agreed upon, and we will present those to members of government at the end of October, and there'll be more news on that coming out. I think the last thing I just want to talk very briefly about is, why are we doing this here? Why are we doing this now? I think it's no surprise to anyone that right now, our community, as in many across the country, there are divisions that we've never experienced before at the level we are now. Whether those are ideological, political divisions, whether those exist between urban communities and rural communities, socioeconomic divisions that are exacerbated in rapidly growing areas like ours. And we could have picked any number of topics, from affordable housing, affordable childcare, to the opioid crisis, to land use. All of those things we hope will be addressed in future assemblies. This isn't just intended to be a one-off event. We're looking and talking with local agencies such as the Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council, with Neighbor Impact and others, about how we can form a public-private partnership to do this again and again, with the intended outcomes of helping improve governance outcomes and policy outcomes here locally, but also of bridging social divides and creating a more socially engaged and civically engaged community so that we can all thrive. Everyone can have a seat at the table. People who feel as if they're not being heard will have the opportunity to actually talk directly with government, not at the side of special interests or of the stakeholders that normally have a seat with government, but really in a new and innovative way. There may be more questions, and we'll try to open up for that later, but now what I'd like to do is turn the floor over to Grace Taylor to talk a bit more about the actual lottery process and get into more detail about assemblies. And let me know if you need that.
Oh, I would love it.
Okay.
Good. Stand behind her. Thank you. Just to tell you a little bit about who Healthy Democracy is, we see it as our job to hold the process in integrity. So our main purpose is to make sure that it's a credible process, that it's transparent to the public, that is completely nonpartisan. We don't take sides, we're not experts on the issue itself, we're more experts in how to create a process in which people can be heard and people can hear each other. We also want to create a space where delegates can speak for themselves, where delegates own the process and really feel ownership and authorship of the results that are delivered to local government. So I'm really proud and excited that this is kicking off right now. It's exciting to see the first of its kind in Central Oregon. This is only the third municipal gathering like this in Oregon, but it's really not something that is widespread yet in the United States. It's been taking off around the world, and I'm hoping that we're on the cusp of something big. So tonight we're going to be selecting the actual assembly members, as Josh referred to. Many of you will have, if you got a postcard in the mail, if you got a letter in the mail and you turned it in, you will have gotten a panelist code by email. And that panelist code will tell you whether or not you have been selected tonight. And I'll go into more detail about how that actually works here in a few minutes. So, as Josh said, those 30 people are going to be selected so that they are demographically representative of the community of Deschutes County. So we're going to look at census, what we have looked at census data, the point in time count for people without housing, and then the Secretary of State's statistics on party registration, to create a panel that is representative in terms of age, gender, race and ethnicity, the location within the county, housing status, educational attainment level, and party affiliation. So, Josh has already covered why some civic assemblies are different. We bring out new voices that are a microcosm of the community. We change the quality of the conversation, ideally, by providing more time to actually talk and listen to each other and learn from each other's perspectives. And then decisions by supermajority, we want to make sure that nobody's voice is stifled or left out. So even though we present supermajority recommendations, we also make sure that minority opinions are still presented as well. And I think we'll do this fairly quickly. Let's see. Yeah, so generally, we're already familiar with some of the ways that people participate in decisions, public decision making. There's voting and surveys and showing up at a public meeting or open to anybody. And then sometimes we do things by specific invitation, whether it's a committee or a commission that's formed, or outreach to specific communities who are impacted, stakeholders, for example. This is a third piece. We're not replacing any of those democratic systems. We are adding a piece to it. So rather than just a slice of the pie, we want more pies. More democracy for everybody. Okay, so this is really a little bit more detail about how it actually happens. So we have sent out invitation letters to 12,500 randomly selected residential addresses across Deschutes County. So we get a list of addresses from the county, we completely randomize them, and then we send those letters out. We get responses. Some are mailed, some come in online. We put those into what is called Panelot. It's an open source software that crunches the numbers and comes up with 1,000 different randomly selected combinations of people, and each of those panels or groups makes up is a demographically representative sample of the whole, ideally. We put in the targets for how many people we need to select from each demographic category to make sure that we are being representative. So that piece is done. The letters are in. We had 125 5 responses or so. We couldn't use every one of them because some people don't fill out their demographic data and we can't really use it if we don't have that information. So about 1% of the people who received a letter have responded to the letter, which is a little bit lower than we would have liked. We would have loved 3%, but it's enough to do what we are attempting to do, with one exception that I will talk about in future. Okay, so we have already run all those respondents into the software. We now have 1,000 different assemblies, all of which are representative. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to pick one of those assemblies. One of those 1,000 panels will be drawn tonight. And then if anybody has to drop out, we'll do another version of this in a couple weeks just to replace folks who've had to leave. And then if we have to, and then we'll do a whole entire other panel of alternates just so that we have backup if somebody doesn't show up on the day of the event. So this is a picture of our City of Petaluma Assembly. So it's just a representative of a cross-section of the community. Josh already talked a little bit about how information gets to the assembly. We've curated local experts, lots of different ways to get information into the panel. They will help decide which of those are most important. The content committee, Youth Action Board is going to be a key advisor in that process. They are going to also speak tonight about their involvement. And then when we're in the room, it's a little bit different. You know, we are going to take a little bit of time to get to know each other. A little bit of orientation into the art of group decision making, learning how to listen to each other, and then really get in depth about the issue itself. As Josh said, take a couple weeks off, request any more additional information that panel or that assembly members would like to have, and then come back and the delegates to the assembly will craft their own recommendations to give to the Youth Advisory Board and other government stakeholders, partners. Okay, so that's kind of how it works. It's a real brief representation of what we do. We have time afterwards if you want to ask questions after we end the event today, but I'm going to let our guest speakers go ahead and introduce themselves.
I'll jump up to do that.
Yeah.
And with a couple of spare minutes in the agenda here, I'd like to backtrack for just a second because I've been told many times that just presenting all the data is good, but relating a story that makes it hit home is even better. And I think this discussion that we've had many times throughout the community of why we're doing it here. There's a very direct correlation to why I am involved in this. And I didn't mention, I spent nearly 30 years in the U.S. Air Force as a special operations pilot, a combat aviation advisor, starting in 1918. I was 18. I didn't start in 1918. I started in 1988. And that all the way through to 2017. And over that time, the wall fell, 9/11 happened, we had the financial collapse in 2008. So many things happened. But through all of that, I would deploy to Africa, the Balkans, Central Asia, with people in the military, men and women from a massive breadth of America, all possible backgrounds, and of the level of diversity you can find nowhere else in one organization. And during that time, I saw time and again, we put all of those divisions aside to complete a mission and to fulfill our oath to defend and serve the Constitution. And as time went on, we would come back from those deployments and see things looking more and more like the divided nations that we were serving in, where we'd come back and people were unable to sit down and have conversations with one another, where suddenly I'm going to family reunions where one uncle won't show up if the other one is showing up because of political differences, not because one's from Ohio State and one's from Michigan, which is the good kind of division. And that to me was emblematic of how we allow new technology, we allow differences to exacerbate in ways that are unhealthy and the ways that break down communities. And through the 1,000 nearly of these types of assemblies that have happened around the globe, time and again, what happens is you see transformations in the individuals who participate, but also in their friends and their families. And as a community experiences this type of event over and over, communities change and those social divisions are mended. And for me personally, being a resident of Central Oregon only for just a little bit over a year, I want to be a part of building that type of a community, which there's already great roots here set. So just wanted to put that out there. I think it's important that we all have a reason for what we're doing. And over the past year, I've had the great fortune, and we in the partnership have had the great fortune of engaging with members of government here who also have a great why for what we're doing. And so now it's my great honor to introduce some of those. We've got Anthony Broadman from the Bend City Council. He and others are going to give just a couple of words on why we're here.
Thanks, Josh. Hey, everybody. Given that the goal of this is for the public to talk to public agencies, I'm going to be brief because I want to hear from this amazing process. And I want to thank the library and Josh and all the people who have done all the work to get us here tonight. My name is Anthony Broadman. I'm a Bend City Councilor. And I want to think a little bit tonight about where we are. We are on the ceded lands of the Confederated Tribes of the Warm Springs. To our south are the Klamath Tribes. People have come together in Central Oregon for millennia. We are in the middle of this state. We are in the center of this state in so many ways, and it's not just geography, right? We like to say that there's the Central Oregon way, and that we do things different here. And I believe that that's true, and I believe that the Citizens Assembly really exemplifies that in such a special way that we have divisiveness in our country. We have divisiveness and division in our state. And yet here we are at the crossroads, as we have been for forever, really. At the middle of this place where we come together and we solve some of the biggest problems that face our communities and our families and our neighbors. I have been enthralled by this idea and this concept for a long time, and it took action from Josh and so many of you to bring this to life in a way that government, so often when things get tough, what we tend to do, what I see in government, is we close our doors. And we know that doesn't work. When the going gets tough, government needs to throw open their doors and embrace the tough conversations. Embrace the fact that we are in the middle of the state and we are stepping up to solve our problems. For me, these assemblies, as I've studied them through as an amateur, being used elsewhere, have three critical whys that are so key for me. The first is the inherent dignity and value of self-governance, and is part of being not just a Central Oregonian or an American, but part of being somebody who has sovereignty and views themselves as having decision-making authority over their future and over their community. The second really critical part of this is the concept that whether you agree with the outcome of this assembly after you've sat through it, if you are donating your time or partially donating your time to this process, when you leave, you will be better educated. You will be better educated on one of the most important issues in our community, youth homelessness. And you will be an ambassador for solutions, where you will be a vocal critic and a constructive critic about what we need to do in our communities to solve the biggest challenges ahead of us. And finally, I truly believe that the collective wisdom that we bring into the room when we talk about participatory democracy, we can get to better policy by involving more people who aren't the repeat offenders, politicians, people who have time to go to meetings, people who are paid lobbyists to go and attend meetings. We do better work, we do better policy when we have more people in the room. And that's why I'm so excited about this. And I'm so grateful to all of the community members who have leaned into the process, from the people who have built it to the people who are stepping up and being part of this democracy in action. And I can't wait to see the results, and I'm so grateful for all of you. So thank you very much.
Thanks. All right. And next we have from the County Board of Commissioners, Phil Chang.
Okay, Josh brought us to Air Force Military Service window to look in to kind of explain the value of a process like this. I'm going to take you all to Forest Street. And trust me, we'll get there. I've been involved in community-based problem solving around natural resource management for decades. So it completely makes sense to me that a citizen assembly could help us figure out how to address youth homelessness. To go into that a little bit more, when our community needed to figure out how to end the timber wars here, and how to deal with the rising threat of wildfire risk to our community, it wasn't our federal elected leaders who helped us figure out how to do that. It wasn't people in the White House, it wasn't members of Congress, it was local community members who led the way. It was people who had lived with the conflict here in the community, felt the job losses, felt the fire risk, and also felt the benefits of living here and having that forest near us. They were the ones who solved the problems. They came together, they dug deep into these issues, they innovated solutions, and then they handed solutions to our federal elected officials on a silver platter. That's how that problem got solved. Not by elected officials, but by citizens in our community who had a first-hand experience. So homelessness is a highly polarized political issue in our community right now, which makes it very difficult for elected officials to be pragmatic, develop solutions, and implement those solutions. I have felt the struggle of that in my role as one of the county commissioners for the last 3.5 years. So I hope that this citizens assembly, composed of community members who have ground level insights on this phenomenon of youth homelessness, can help show elected leaders like myself, like Anthony, like Liz here from, like Melanie, that you can show us the way. So with that, I just want to thank everyone who's been involved in setting up this process. It's very promising forum for seeking solutions, and I hope that we can deliver for our kids, our neighbors, our families, because we all deserve real solutions. Thank you.
And now we have Ms. Goodrich, who is not only helped us get this spot at the library, but is a member of the Redmond School Board.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming, and thanks Josh and Grace for putting this together. It's so important. Like Josh said, I work for the library. I'm also a school board member out in Redmond. And these are two overlapping institutions that I think are so important, to me, two very important cornerstones of our democracy. Libraries that have no barriers to accessing information. We welcome all. We meet you where you are and get you what you need. And same for public schools. We have some challenges with students experiencing houselessness. Last year, our school district served just under 300 kids. Those students living through homelessness have a 30% regular attendee record as opposed to 69% of the regular student population. And we know that kids being in school is what's going to get them across that finish line of graduation and earning that high school diploma, which is arguably a first step to some stability, whether it's going on to higher education, the military and trade, or just going into the workforce. Kids with diplomas do better. And so these kinds of situations where we're trying to solve a stability problem for kids to get them back into our schools on a regular basis so we can get them across the finish line are really important to me and important to us all as a community. We just want to wrap ourselves around this problem and really bring some solutions that work for our young people that are out there. I also work out at homeless camp every Sunday afternoon, and so have firsthand experience working directly with some of these kids that we serve in our schools, and we're ever grateful for any kind of work that we can do together to bring some viable solutions to this problem. So thanks for coming. Just FYI, all the swag on the back, library swag, for yours to take. And Josh might forget, there are QR codes around. We want to know where you heard about today's program. Shameless pitching.
Thanks for reminding me. And now a slightly longer introduction to someone whose name really in this community is synonymous with serving people who are experiencing homelessness, someone whose selfless dedication across the board for longer than I can possibly know has been incredibly important and left an indelible mark on the community, continues to, and someone who's a mentor to me and has been throughout this whole process, Eliza Wilson.
You're not supposed to make people cry. Gosh. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. And thank you all for being here tonight. I'm really the lucky one to be able to be up here to introduce Central Oregon's Youth Action Board. They were established in 2003 as youth advocacy group, first advising JBRJ youth services programs and advocating locally on youth homelessness issues. Throughout the years, the Youth Action Board's influence has grown. The Youth Action Board supports our community in a variety of ways, now representing youth voice by holding a board seat on the continuum of care. The Youth Action Board members give perspective and leadership to the complexities of youth homelessness locally, at the state level, and also in DC. The current board has worked tirelessly these last 6 months to grow their board, to create Central Oregon's coordinated community plan to prevent and end youth homelessness, which was just submitted to the federal government yesterday. It was a huge undertaking, just working with all the community partners, the school board, ODHS, to do community work on where can we go with this issue and how can we involve people with lived experience in it, which I think really complements this work and what we're talking about tonight. The board has just completed an RFP process to award just under $1 million of funding to house homeless youth in Central Oregon. And they will work with JBRJ Youth Services to develop a housing program that centers youth and their needs. This board of young adults really work in the community to effectively reduce youth homelessness locally. And as a past member, one of the first actually, it is my honor to be here to introduce Isabel, Anthony, and Keita.
Hello, my name is Anthony Angel, and I'm the co-chair of the Youth Advisory Board. I also work closely with Foster Club, dealing with current and former foster youth around Oregon at the moment. And I'm excited about this project to create community awareness around youth homelessness. As said before, the youth voice matters, especially if you've experienced homelessness. I haven't experienced homelessness, and I'm currently 24, and 2 years ago, thanks to programs like this and my own perseverance, I have finally stopped being homeless, and it's just been an amazing process, and this community has treated me so well, and I'm looking forward to how this project continues. Thank you.
Hi everyone.
Morrison. I am the chair on the Youth Advisory Board and, Youth Action Board, sorry. I'm a college student and a youth currently homeless in Central Oregon. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being here today. It means a lot to know that our community cares. For years I've struggled with homelessness and I've been slowly working my way out, but every day is a battle. Some days are better than others. Today I have accomplished most of my goals and now plan to continue in goal planning and achieving with the help from our community. I look forward to meeting everyone involved in this project. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Keith Adketto. I've been in care since I was 3. Coming back here to Central Oregon multiple times. I spent multiple years homeless, and I made the mistake of not taking advantage of the community that I have here, the resources that have been provided. I was a bit too stubborn in that. And after I finally overcame the stubbornness and accepted this help, I've been able to become as well unhomeless, have my own place. I'm only 22 now, so not too bad. But it's good that although I didn't have a lot of these resources, or I didn't take advantage of them when I was young, I like being able to be here and support and promote those resources to other people who are less advantageous than me. So, appreciate you guys.
As the community coalesced around this topic for the assembly, I hadn't become aware yet of the Youth Action Board. And the first time that I sat down with them, everyone who's involved agreed we shouldn't dive into this space unless we talked first with them and understood how this would meet their needs and find the synergies so that we could empower one another in the process. And I can't speak highly enough of everything that they bring to the table. Their colleagues, the 3 that you heard from tonight, a powerful group of advocates for youth and young adults experiencing homelessness around here. And you should, if you haven't done it yet, Google it, look up more. There are projects like this around the country, and it's worthy of our attention. And now, I think we are to the point where we're going to bring Grace back up, and eventually to young helpers, but not just you, to actually choose the 30 people who are going to be on this board. All right, let's have a
Where's our drum roll?
I realized there was one thing I wanted to discuss that I skipped over when I was giving my previous presentation. Humor me for just a minute. I just wanted to talk a little bit about accessibility and how important that is to our process. We provide stipends for panelists or assembly members, delegates who participate for a reason, because we know that people are taking time out of their lives, that they're hiring babysitters, that they have elders to care for at home, that it costs money to drive here from out of town. And so just, it's a value that we have, that we make it accessible, we make it so people can be here with fewer, at least some help to offset the sacrifices that are made to be good participants in a public dialogue. So just wanted to name that. Okay, now it is the exciting part. We already did the drum roll. I would like to invite Cooper and Mia up here.
Now, one thing we didn't mention, in the demographics, we're looking at people who were eligible to be members of the assembly from age 16 and up. So as you know, we want people from across the community. Can we see some IDs? Are you both 16? No. I never remember. These are my kids. So it's hard to remember sometimes. But, okay.
Okay, so remember there's 1,000 panels and we are going to select one of those panels. So first we need to make sure that all of the balls are there. Can Mia or Cooper, could one of you verify, are all the numbers there from 0 to 9? I checked.
Cooper, are they all there? 0 through 9? Okay. Excellent.
So folks who have responded, have gotten an email, they should know their panelist number, but if they don't, we can help you find that. If you responded and don't remember what your panelist number is. Okay, all the balls are in there. And then if you are selected to a panel, you will hear from us within the next week. We will call you personally. We will also email you to let you know that you've been selected. All right, we're ready for our first number. 9.
Shout it out.
Thank you. Can one of you write that in a big 9 on that sheet? That's perfect. Okay. All the balls are back in the cage, right?
Almost.
What's our second number?
3.
Okay.
How long is our number gonna be?
3, let's go back in. 3 digits.
Okay.
Zero.
Okay, 930 is the.
Great job.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull those numbers up and put them on the screen while Josh.
Okay, tap dances. Yeah. All right, so this is a pretty big improvement over the backwards 3s that we had going until last year. So nice job.
Good job.
Thank you. You want to do one more? Sure, yeah, pull one more out. So what Grace is doing now is going back into the database that had these 1,999 different combinations of 30 people pulled from that list. It's amazing what we can do. How are we doing over there? Do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Hi.
This is one of those key points where we would love to sort of really accentuate, put an exclamation mark on the evening by having a list of names so that everyone could sort of celebrate that they've been selected for this. That said, we haven't spoken with them yet, and we don't know what their preferences are on privacy, and so we don't want to step over that boundary. So what we'll be doing over the course of the next week, first of all, today, we'll be bringing up the list here, so anyone who's watching the live stream or the recorded version can then pull those up and see if their number that was on their invitation letter matches. Next, we'll be reaching out to them directly within the next week, all 30 members, to let them know that they've been selected. We anticipate that something will have happened for a few of them in the intervening time between when they said they'd like to volunteer and when they get that notification. That typically happens. So we'll expect maybe 10%, 3 or 4 people will let us know they can't do it. And in that case, what we'll do is we will just, as Grace alluded to, do a whole another mini lottery selection. We won't call you all back in, but we'll pull some more numbers and get another group of people. What's fascinating about this is in case after case around the world, when people actually show up to the assembly on day 1 and they've spent an hour or 2 there, there's almost no attrition, almost no one drops out, because instantly they start to feel the power of sitting in a room with people who normally, let's face it, the real world, maybe they would be slinging comments, nasty comments against one another in a social media feed, who knows. But now they're actually sitting down, hearing people's, not just their opinions, but the why behind it, their personal experiences. And some empathy starts to sort of regenerate, know, our societal EQ may have dipped a bit in the past years. And so this is an opportunity where people start to remember what it means to actually sit, listen. We're extraordinarily fortunate that the university is going to be recruiting students to participate as facilitators and moderators. So we'll have some professional facilitators who are empowering the assembly members to actually lead themselves. But we'll also have help from students. So we're doing some capacity building there. We're bringing young perspectives into the space. And oh, and here we go. I think I can probably stop talking. But this is, part of the process that still is ahead of us to get the people into the room and stay in there. And now
Now I have to make a big.
So when each one of those 12,500 letters went out, they had a code at the top corner. So anyone who got a letter and wonders if they've been selected, take a snapshot of these numbers, and yeah. To kind of fast forward a little bit while we're making this a little bigger. When the assembly takes place on those 2 weekends in September and October, it's in Ray Hall. There will be social media, there will be flyers about this. Members of the public and media are allowed and encouraged to come and sit in an observer's gallery. And we want this to be as transparent a process as possible. There is space for a lot of people to sit and watch and listen and see just how this process works. And hopefully, next time around, be selected. So I'll hand it back to you, Grace, if you have anything else to add here.
I'm just curious if we have any potential delegates in the room. Did anybody who's here in the room tonight respond to an invitation mailing?
I did.
Okay, so,
Well, I don't know what my
we
number
don't know what your number is
is. It
either,
started with 400.
but we're
Okay,
excited,
there
we're
you go.
excited to find out who will be there, and we're excited to get in touch with everybody and kick off this project.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all so much. Thanks to everyone who's watching, and we look forward to engaging. We do have this space for a little longer, so if there's anyone here who has any questions, wants to speak with any of the speakers or with us just about any of the questions or details about the process, we'll be around for a few more minutes. And thanks again to everyone who spoke and joined it tonight. Oh, and last time, yeah, join the library, participate, get books. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Turn this thing off.
I noticed that some people were saying that the audio was hard to hear on here.
Okay.
So I